Hi friends, welcome to my YouTube channel Assist Analysis. First of all, I would like to tell you that if you're watching this video first time, subscribe my channel to see my more upcoming videos on analysis of different commodities and equity indices. And second important thing is to watch this video till its end to understand the story to take your decision. Your one like will motivate me to be regular in working more for you. So let's start the day to analyze the movements of natural gas futures in different time frames. So friends, here you can see a weekly chart of natural gas futures. So here I've already discussed the moves of natural gas futures, that the natural gas futures have been repeating the moves what we have seen during the year 2018. Same moves have been repeated here above the levels of $4, which was a psychological resistance when the natural gas futures were trading well below this resistance. But once the natural gas futures found a breakout above this psychological resistance turned into a psychological support. When the natural gas futures tried to sustain above this psychological support and finally tested a high at the levels of $4.2 during the last week. So friends, here you can see that how the natural gas futures remained very volatile amid this bullish zone, as we have seen here during the year 2018. So friends, here you can see the how during the last week the natural gas futures remained very bullish and tested a high at the levels of 4.197. But during the last week the natural gas futures remained very bearish and tested a high at the levels of 4.191 and a low at the levels of 3.846 before closing the week at the levels of 3.861. So friends, here you can see that the natural gas futures have finally closed the last week at a critical juncture, because this level seems to be a very decisive level, as we have seen here during the year 2018, where you can see that a sustainable move below this level could bring more bearish pressure for natural gas futures, because currently the natural gas futures have come below the psychological support at $4. So now this level has turned into a psychological resistance now for natural gas futures. So friends, now I find that the natural gas futures will have to struggle a lot to sustain above the psychological resistance at $4. It is very important for natural gas futures to defend the levels of $3.851 now during the upcoming week, because a downward move below this level could keep the natural gas futures to test new lows, where the immediate support for natural gas futures could be at the 9 days moving average in a weekly time frame, which is currently at the levels of $3.671, from where the natural gas futures could find strong buying support from this level. But here I find that if the natural gas futures are not able to hold this level during the upcoming week, we could see the natural gas futures to move more downward and could test the levels of the 3.555 during the upcoming week. So friends, here I find that the level of the 3.5 could provide a strong buying support here, because here I find that still the uncertainty will be there. So friends, here you can see that how the natural gas futures have been still maintaining the current uptrend, but here a big down below this level could result in a big down below this lower line of this uptrend. And here I find that a big down below the levels of $3.721 could keep the natural gas futures in more bearish pressure, whereas the 9 days moving average, which is currently at the levels of 3.611, could provide a strong buying support here. So friends, here I find that in a weekly time frame the uptrend could remain intact if the natural gas futures find a bounce back once again from the levels of 3.796. So friends, here I find that if the natural gas futures hold the levels of 3.796 during the upcoming week, we will see this uptrend to continue in natural gas futures. So friends, now let's check this move in a daily time frame. Friends, here in a daily time frame, here you can see that how the natural gas futures faced stiff resistance at the levels of 4.2 and finally continued to move downward from August 9 and found a steep slide below the levels of 4.113 on August 11, when the National Hurricane Center on Tuesday announced that the Hurricane Fred became the sixth named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season as it moved past the US Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. So since then, the natural gas futures continued to slide up to this weekly closing. Here you can see that how the natural gas futures finally closed the week well below this bullish zone and here I find that the immediate support has been seen. So friends, here I find that the natural gas futures has closed the week well below the 26 days moving average in a daily time frame, which could keep this downward move intact up to the upper end of a Chimoku cloud, which is currently at the 3.564, what the natural gas futures could test during the upcoming week. And friends, here I find that if the natural gas futures start the upcoming week with a gap down opening below the levels of $3.827, this ride could continue up to the levels of 3.721, where the natural gas futures could find some bounce back up to the levels of 3.888. But here, once again, the level of the 4 could continue to provide stiff resistance to natural gas futures. But on the other hand, if the natural gas futures start the upcoming week with a gap up opening and could sustain above the levels of the 3.964, the natural gas futures could find a breakout above the psychological resistance during the upcoming week, where the next resistance will be at the levels of the 4.119. Friends, now let us check this move in a 15-minute time frame. So friends, here in a 15-minute time frame, here you can see that how the natural gas futures found stiff resistance here at the levels of the 4.126 since August 11, when the natural gas futures started to move downward since Tuesday after the announcement of Hurricane Fred. But here you can see that how the natural gas futures found a steep downward move on last Friday, when the natural gas futures tested a high at the 3.952 before closing the day. So here you can see that how the natural gas futures found a sharp downward move of $1. So friends, here you can see that how the natural gas futures behaved below the levels of 3.952, and a sharp downward move of $1 was seen here, which could keep this downward trend intact during the upcoming week. And here I find that if the natural gas futures start the upcoming week with a gap down opening below the levels of 3.8, we could see the continuity of this downward trend during the upcoming week, where the natural gas futures could test the levels of the 3.746, from where we could see a bouncing move in natural gas futures back up to the levels of the 3.888 during the upcoming week, and the next support will be at the levels of $3.689 for the upcoming week, where the natural gas futures could find a strong buying support below this level, because here I find that this level could push the natural gas futures once again up to here. So friends, I'm expecting 4 opening zones for the upcoming week, where my first opening zone will be below the levels of the 3.8, and the second opening zone will be at the same levels where the natural gas futures closed the last week. So friends, here I find that if the natural gas futures start the upcoming week above the levels of the 3.864, we could see a sharp bouncing move back up to the levels of the 3.951, and here I find that a system move of natural gas futures well above the levels of the 3.948 could keep this uptrend intact. But here I find that the level of the 3.965 could provide some resistance to natural gas futures, where we could find some profit booking. But here I find that the system move above this level could encourage bulls to breach the psychological resistance at $4. And my third expected level for the opening for upcoming week will be a gap up opening well above the levels of $3.977. So friends, here I find that if the natural gas futures start the upcoming week well above the levels of $3.984, we could see the continuity of this uptrend, because here I find that the natural gas futures could easily breach the psychological resistance and could try to sustain above the levels of 4 during the upcoming week. And my fourth opening zone will be a gap down opening, where the natural gas futures could start the upcoming week well below the levels of $3.753, where I find that the natural gas futures could remain under heavy selling pressure. We could see the natural gas futures could test the major support at the levels of $3.689, from where the natural futures could find buying support from here, because here this level could attract bulls to go long from this level. So friends, here I find that this level could provide a strong buying support to natural gas futures, where the natural gas futures could once again test the levels of $3.9 during the upcoming week. So friends, here during the upcoming week, the natural gas futures could remain very volatile because the tropical storm Fed, which weakened in the outage through the Caribbean, is expected to gain more strength and become a tropical storm again as it approaches Florida Keys on Saturday. The National Hurricane Center said on August 13th that Fred is the sixth storm of the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season, but the hurricane Fred is constantly shifting its direction, which could keep this uncertainty intact, where I find that if the tropical hurricane Fred take a sudden shift in its direction, we could find a sharp bullish move in natural gas futures. So friends, here I find that the currently projected route of tropical storm Fred could keep the natural gas futures in bearish pressure, but a shift in this expected route of hurricane Fed could make a sudden turn in the sentiments of natural gas futures, because here I find that if the natural gas futures holds the levels of $3.747 during the upcoming week, we could see the impact of this hurricane up to August 16. So friends, here I find that the levels of natural gas futures will be very decisive on the second trading session of the upcoming week, because the hurricane Fed will finally take a decisive move up to Tuesday. So friends, here I find that on Tuesday the natural gas futures could take a final decisive move. So friends, here I find that these opening levels could be very decisive for the further direction moves of the natural gas futures during the upcoming week. So thank you friends, thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, don't forget to share this video with your more and more friends. Thank you.